Hey, how are you guys? Welcome to this new live. On this occasion, again, we are for the second time with Andrés León, a developer who has already told us a little about his story in the previous video. I'm going to put some link to the previous video so that they can check it, but you will find this one quickly in the videos of the channel. On this occasion, we are going to start a series of videos today. We don't know how many there are going to be. This is going to depend on how. Let's see moving forward. But the joke behind these videos is that no, not me, because I still don't know this A to this topic of programming, but he is going to be showing us here, Andres, how we can start this in programming, in becoming a developer. I don't know how many of you would like to know how to program, know how to do interesting things on the computer, and even more so in blockchain, which is the future, right? So it can even be a career that you can develop. And right now we are going to see the basics, the principles to start on this path in scripting, which is a programming language to the extent that everyone has told me is much simpler, much more that you can make programming smaller compared to other blockchains. So it's going to be something very, very, very important, very interesting that we're going to see here later for everyone who wants this in English. We're also going to, or I'm going to put this in software there that I use it to translate our voices and also have English audio for the English community. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it works. How are you, Andres? Welcome.
Very well. Thank you very much, Guillermo, for bringing me back. And thank you very much for offering me the opportunity to use your platform so you can communicate more about Radix, in this case, Scrypto. Okay. And so that more people can benefit from the good things we have been doing in the past, because I think 3 years is enough from academia Scrypto. What does it mean to promote developers, especially Spanish speakers? Okay, so they can empower themselves, so they can create their own model of life. It's okay with a future profession that is programmer, blockchain programmer. Okay, although it is true that we know that Radix is not what we are going to see now, it is not a blockchain, but it is, as we usually define truth, to this type of programming environment, not crypto programming, we would say.
And
let me say to all the English speakers, YouTube, although many times they do not know it, has a function that is to translate into other languages with subtitles. So I know that for us non-English speakers, it is something common. For them, it is not. I know. I hope you know that this function exists and that you can use it and you can listen to all the videos we have made from Learn This Crypto. I know, in fact, I know many who have done it like this, okay? And today they have applications on the platform, okay? And they can also learn a lot.
That's right. And there it is in the message that one who is walking down there learns script is a page from Andres that this one, well, has a lot of information. Not in fact right now. We are going to start to see just like that how to start this. As you can see in the title of the video and in the following ones, maybe we are going to advance a little, but if you want to get much more involved, then you have to go there, aprendescripto.com, so that you can, now you do have to go much more. Inside, not like any career, this can become a career for someone who maybe right now doesn't know what to do with his life, or you are going through some complicated situation at work and they say, son, I would like to change course. This may be a way. It's not there. There are many online academies. This one, I sometimes listen to videos from one called Platzi, which is this one because they have many different types of courses of all things. But sometimes they release me. I'm not subscribed to this one, but sometimes they release very interesting videos about what the careers of the future are and all this and the programming, because it is one of the best paid and you can do it anywhere. So it's really an opportunity for people who want to have a change, but obviously you need time. You need to invest time so that you can start doing something really important with changing your life, right?
I've defended this for years, even for investors or people entering the crypto world from non-programming backgrounds, or people who want to, let's say, enter this crypto world from other areas that are not programming itself. They also need to know bases and fundamentals. Okay, especially nowadays when this whole world is so fledgling. Well, to avoid as far as possible certain scams or certain scams that can occur on the internet. A few days ago, if you remember on Radix, we saw 1XR Chrism. well, I don't know, a fan point. I don't know exactly how. That's it. That's it. And look at Radix. We are simply going to see it. It implements very good systems to be able to avoid, let's say, one falls so easily into this type of scans. But even so, there were people who fell then. What returns again to, although we create the best tools in the world, because Radix has the best today, for especially for this type of thing, security issue at the level of individual protection. I mean, even so, and it can continue to be implemented, I know that those who have listened to the community and that they are going to implement new notification systems in the wallet, it doesn't matter how many notification systems you put. If the person distorts them, does he end up having his funds because he ends them all then?
I want to
Saying that the training, even if it is on a smaller scale, understanding how it works a little, everything will help you. He's going to be a better investor. It's also worth it in some way. When someone asks me something, a transaction or whatever, to be aware of what I'm doing, to know what I have to ask him. Okay, for example, you are going to make some NFTs for the reward. Okay, so what we are going to do with you is that we are going to, or what you are going to do, you are going to publish the smart contract so that everyone is able to see what the code is. And then when they sign that code or a call to that contract, they're going to know exactly what's going to happen. So we're going to see that Scrypto and Radix with their transaction manifest allow human readability quite clear, more than other programming languages and other transaction models. So if someone is interested, even if they are not going to be a great programmer, it can always be very, very interesting.
If I think someone lost, a single person lost, I think 3,000 Radix that are like something.
So, but hey, Linux, the other day on the Hispano Telegram channel, I don't know if you remember, he said to look as simple as never operating with your wallet where you have all your funds.
You know, yes, used you.
Are you going to make a transaction, open a wallet, let's say new, okay, inside your ticket, you open a new wallet, transfer the funds you need to it in XRD or whatever, okay? And from there, you launch the transaction, and so you will never lose your funds, you know? They'll never be able to drain them. It's something so simple, and not for Radix, for other networks, no.
For life insurance.
Indeed, this is true. About different insurance policies.
Very good, is good. I have already put your screen or your presentation here. Andres, whenever you want, you drive.
All right, well, nothing this, well, that. What you have not proposed, and I find it very interesting, is that we make a series of videos where we help people understand, at least open that door. Is it worth getting to know Radix and knowing your path towards programming? No, because Radix has different paths. His path to programming does not. First, understand what Radix is okay in a very simple, very sketchy way. Okay, Radix is a delete. Okay, what does this mean? Okay, we'll have heard it many times. Okay, well, it means, okay, it is a technology, okay, where it has a ledger, an accounting book. We would say in Spanish, it is worth a database specialized in financial issues. We could also say it is worth, well, this ledger, this accounting book, this database has it distributed. What does this mean? Okay, then he has it scattered in various parts of the world. It's valid on different computers or nodes, and there's no central point that, let's say, is somehow arbitrating this network. Okay, each node acts independently. That is, if we have a network of 100 nodes, even if that single node drops to 99, would that SIEM continue to act alone and could serve as a seed to recreate new nodes because everyone keeps, okay, all that ledger is worth that database? Well, this technology, the best known, let's say the best known form by everyone is the blockchain. Okay, I think that most networks, we all know a lot of networks, starting with Bitcoin, okay, continuing with Ethereum and others that are blockchain, but it is not the only way to achieve this purpose, okay, or this purpose. But there are other implementations of DLTs that have been implemented. Well, here I have put a graph with some of them, okay? And as you can see in the last one, before it was called Tempo, now it is called Cerberus, okay, is Radix. But there are others like Dakhals, Graph, Oro Chain, etc., etc. Those are, let's say, the best known or famous. So at the end of the day, we would say Radix is different from blockchain networks. Yeah, the purpose is the same. Yeah, okay. In the end, it is to have a database where we can somehow save information or transact assets in a drinkable, traceable way, etc., etc. Everything we know and have studied a lot of times about blockchains. In other words, the idea is the same. What happens is that the approaches, in this case, technological ones to address the problem are different, just that. So what tools or what does Radix offer us, say, so first that other networks do not offer us? You're still out there. No, Guillermo.
Yes, I took off to stop to slow down and ensure it looks good, but here it is.
It looks perfectly okay. What do we have? Well, you've seen. Okay. He finally Radix himself. It's not just a chain, it's worth a network. DLT. But it also provides us with, let's say, a full stack worth a complete stack, worth tools for programmers, because we are seeing from the programmer's point of view, worth being able to create decentralized or distributed applications. Okay, here it shows us, the wallet, the script is worth it. Radixing in itself, which we will now see a little more about that, and Cerberus, which is a consensus protocol that uses Radix, is worth to us right now as Cerberus programmers we don't care about. Rather, the consensus protocol is worthless because the thing is that we care little in most DLT networks, even blockchains. Why? Because they work, basically consensus protocols work very well, okay? They are the ones in charge of keeping them updated, okay? And with the same database, all the OK nodes, they act like that as consensus of the information. What interests us, we are above all interested as programmers in the describe part, which is the, let's say the place where we are going to be able to create our contracts, what we normally call smart contracts, okay? And we will also be interested in the Radix engine in our case, because as we will now see, it is the one that defines how assets move within the Radix network. Okay, we'll see about that now. And of course, the wallet, because the wallet in the end is the point and end of everything, right? It is where the transactions begin. What we say moves the network, okay? And where we finally see or read the state of the network, at least on our part of the network, which is our wallet. Okay, then we will see that there are the boards and such to be able to read the current state of the entire network. Okay, but as you can see, Radio de Primeras presents us with a complete stack of tools to be able to shape. We will see later that it is quite simple to be able to create decentralized applications. And I believe that where we are going to focus more of our time, the description is where, let's say, we are going to be able to differentiate ourselves as programmers from that programmer who simply creates a web interface, okay, or a backend, but rather the one who creates. In addition, it is worth smart contracts and written that language that has created a specific language that has been created in Radix to create the creation of these contracts. Why do I need to create a new language? And it doesn't do like other networks that assume solidity, for example. No, other networks, what they do is they implement the Ethereum virtual machine. They implement solidity worth within their network, even if it is different from Ethereum or other machines virtual, simply for practicality. Since many people know solidity, well, let's say I attract developers who already know this. Well, Addict does not do it simply because it is impossible. That is the paradigm that Radix presents. Especially in its Radixing, Jame is worth in its application layer. Although we will see that it has more to do with the application layer, but with it is a complete Jame. It's a complete engine. Okay, it's not worth the Ethereum virtual machine. No, it wouldn't be compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine because the paradigm is completely different. Okay, so they need to create their own programming language, in this case written, that is based on Rust to now be able to manage the assets. Finally, create them, move them, and destroy them the way Radix Veil does, and as the Radix and Jade does, fundamental characteristics that we have to have clearly described. As it says here, it is worth that we can quickly transfer an idea. A concept is worth production, is worth a minimum viable product. One MVP is worth that we can quickly test and see if yes, if it works, and then iterate it to, well, to see if yes, if let's say, if it adapts to the needs of the market, okay, you know, William, that this is crucial these days. Okay, any startup needs to quickly come up with a model, okay, iterate it quickly until it finds the formula that convinces those who are going to be its customers, okay, and Radix offers that possibility, okay, with Scrypt. Do they offer that property? We will see why it is worth something very interesting for programmers later. The feature described itself allows you to natively receive royalties. Okay, that is when someone uses your smart contract, they receive a royalty. You can receive a royalty from the person who is using it. You may have seen that on other networks, okay? Well, there is. As contract repositories, it is worth that they are like standards that people can copy, paste in some way, modify and use. Okay, and there is no native way to charge for it. The person who is dedicated to doing all this is worth it, because ultimately to be able to monetize this is difficult since Radix implements a system. We will see later, because being modular, it is easy to power. Monetizing, okay, well, a system to collect those royalties at the end. Guillermo, in the world of programming, this is something that is necessary. Why? Because how many of us in programming, when we're programming something, we don't turn to a library, okay? We go to GitHub, we see a library that does this, we like the other thing, okay? We see that the person that's there saying that I have done it gives you a place to leave a tip worth 1 for using it. And then it happens, and many developers of these libraries, sometimes open source, complain that all humanity is using them. It is worth large companies like Microsoft, for example, and no one gives them a single tip for using their code, and they are being reused as key pieces in a lot of repositories. Well, because no one has implemented a simple system. It is valid within the code itself to be able, let's say every time that application was used, to be able to give a royalty to this individual, to this programmer, and Radix, this is incorporated. The idea is to encourage the writing of these quality components so that they can now be used. And you don't have to rewrite the code again, and the programmer can bring his royalty from the emphasis to this, because this is very new in the ecosystem. Okay? And without a doubt, it is very favorable for someone to say, Jolene, well, it is worth dedicating some time to it, some time to see how to do it in rallies, okay? And then finally, security, which I think is the aspect that developers always have to keep in mind. It is valid in this type of smart contracts, because without a doubt, if there is no security, okay, people are not going to use your network a clear program. Okay, you are not dealing with data that someone gives you summaries, but you are dealing with people's money. Okay, then you need to give it 100% security. We were seeing the other day in the rewind that we made of Radix Worth that this year Hacken Worth gave an award to Radix because it was the Hacken network is one of the great security auditors. And Radix has gone to security audit with hacking the entire network itself, not the contracts, but the entire network, okay, and has given it 10 out of 10 in 10 out of 10 in audit, and has given it in Tokyo, I think 2049, I think it's called. I don't think he gave him an award for the most secure network, right? So Radix here says it's safe by default. The Radix engine is safe by default. Why do you say it's by default? Because it is true that you can implement different methodologies to apply security from the code. If per se the platform also doesn't let you do things that are unsafe, okay, well then it's win-win, we all win, okay, and Radix. As we will see, it implements systems that per se or by default make the platform secure, and therefore as a programmer, you feel safe, you feel you can sleep peacefully because you're building secure applications. Okay, someone put a message, right?
If so, the focus on security, scalability, and incentives for developers positions it as a strong alternative to other platforms such as Ethereum, Public Out, or
Solantes, of course, that's that. It's indeed, well, what we've been talking about, isn't it? Yes, yes. In fact, you will have seen that I like it. It is one of the posts in the tweets that I like. Reposting is the fact that right now among I don't remember who it is. There is someone who is dedicated to looking in the GitHub repositories. Which of the networks are having more lines of code, more programmers and such, and Radix has been increasing little by little, and now it is practically in first place. That is, the interest on the part of programmers is increasingly growing. Okay, because they understand that it's a friendly place where you can start programming, okay?
Here?
Look at the things we saw before before here in the full stack, we have seen Scrypto, okay, Cerveros. We have said that we will deal with it in another video. Okay, if you have when. If it's okay with you, Guillermo, I'll commit myself here when the community test is held at the beginning of next year. You know, with the 1 million transactions per second, we can make a video about Cerberus exclusively.
Okay.
Okay, because in the end, that's from Cerberus. Okay, what's going to be tested is Cian, the next stage. Okay, so we have seen it written, we would lack Igualet, okay? And the wallet implements, well, first, if you have used the wallet, who has used the wallet and has used the wallet of others from other networks? You have seen how fast, simple, intuitive, usable, friendly it is. In other words, it is very well thought out, okay, and I love it, okay, and in fact, they justify why they do it. What is a clean wallet? I mean, it doesn't have paraphernalia or other applications or other things. It's what it is for, okay? As a crypto asset wallet, and that's it. It doesn't have any more stories, but Qualet also allows us to see interesting things. Is the manifest that I call M-bar-TX, okay? It is the transaction manifest. The manifest is worth the transactions. We are used to the fact that transactions are imperative. That is, you launch a transaction, it is carried out, and that's it, okay? And you don't really know what has happened out there, okay? That is, you assume that something is going to happen, but something happens in the smart contract or wherever you are launching the transaction. But in Radix, the transactions are systems of intentions. That is, in the transaction, you are telling him what you would like to happen. And if it doesn't happen as they're atomic, the transaction breaks then. What's the matter? That what they have devised is a system, a manifesto, a system where you can declare those intentions. It is a friendly system, readable by man himself. In the second code, it is valid, but also the wallet, when you receive this transaction or the body of the transaction, what it does to you is that it gives it to you graphically. For example, in this case, we are seeing that you withdraw 20 RUSDs from your account. That these 20 are going to be transferred to something called RadixSwap, which is a valid contract, and that finally you have to deposit, that is, you have to return. It is worth at least, or you are asking for 32.78 XXX worth tokens of these XRMs are worth. But look below that, it says that they are guaranteed at least 31.14 because you can tell him that. A guarantee, a slip. If you allow a slippage of a certain percentage with the culture in the transaction itself, you can determine exactly what it is that at least you would like him to give you back. If it doesn't arrive, that breaks, okay? But as if you tell him that what you want is for him to give you back, they are XRB, that is, he will not be able to give you anything else with which. This is 111, a very powerful weapon when it comes to avoiding what I mentioned before about scans. And yet it happens. Okay, I mean, very powerful, because in a way it's worth being able to read it in a friendly way. Okay, actually, I mean, forgive me, forgive the person who has lost, I don't know how many millions of rallies, but you have to be very clumsy.
You know?
I know, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. It is. Is that one of the simplest things that have ever been considered? That is, he signed without looking, without reading. Okay, without the screen, he didn't see.
He didn't see anything. No, he didn't see anything. Surely nothing else gave him anything.
For him.
Will I get an airdrop because of let's go, I don't care.
Let's go. And they were taking out the LSUs. I understand what he had inside, staking a node, not in stacking. But I was putting it here for you. I was putting it here. I was telling him that I was going to take away his, you know. It's not that I didn't put it on him or hide it from him somehow. I had to be putting it on him somehow. So that's okay on the one hand. On the other hand, another very interesting thing about the wallet is, okay, later we will combine it, but we can see exactly, let's say, not only the metadata, but the characteristics of the assets. That is, what is your supply if it can be burned? If it cannot be burned, we can see if it is a sole token, that is what remains linked to the wallet. We can see that is those properties that that token has at that time. Okay. And this is very important because we can do this on other networks, and all this is the channel is the Radix Jade that we have seen before. Okay, this Radix Jade allows us to create assets where we define clearly so that the entire network can know it. All the environments, all the wallets, the DAPs, everyone can see exactly what the characteristics of that asset are. That is what things can and cannot be done with that asset. Okay, and we see that as it is, since it is still a characteristic of the asset, we can quickly see it. We read it in the ledger and we can see it reflected in our voucher about the transactions, the planned one we've seen. Okay, and then finally, the other great feature that the wallet has, and that is going to serve us as programmers. Okay, it is the people system, which is a login system, as it says, the login system for applications. Okay, so say goodbye passwords. No, actually, because you're logging in. On the other hand, having them ask you for your Google or Facebook account, and that's what they ask you for. Normally, applications with Radix will ask you for your account, not your wallet. Your Radix account is valid, and you can, as it says here, you can create as many accounts as different skins you want, or I don't know how to say in Spanish, different personalities you want to have within your own network. Okay. So I can log in and share because it lets you share some other very basic things as a name. It seems to me that the telephone email is something very basic with, let's say, like Andrés León or another. I can do it like my alter ego X that I have created within the network. Okay, so in the end, it's just a public private key. Okay, that is in this case, a public key that you are sharing where you are now. You can, I mean, the programmer can use as a hash value to identify every time that person connects. Well, I know who he is because I already clearly identify him with his unique ID that he has provided me.
Okay, there's a question, Andres. Yes, at that point, all the people you create inside the wallet, they all point to a single A. Let's say the physical wallet where it is, or each of the people is a wallet.
It's not unrelated, okay? That is, the people are not related to the
wallet.
With anyone, you can select any wallet. They're different things, not related. Ultimately, it's about having different logins, and the best approach is to use different wallets. Radix does not enforce a hierarchical system where several wallets depend on each person.
In the case, for example, of this scam that happened, yes, the person who lost 3,000 from former tricks had, let's say, 3 people. In one, he had the 3,000, and in the other 2, not 10 and 10. And if he had connected with the 10, they cannot touch the 3,000.
If you have noticed the wallet, it asks you person, and then it asks you what wallets you want to link. But with anyone, you can select any wallet. Okay, they're different things. Okay, they're not related to each other. Okay, so in the end, it's to have different logins. Okay. And the best thing would be for us to use different wallets, but that's your decision that you make. It's not blocking you. Radix, it's not that you have a hierarchical system. Several wallets depend on each person. Okay, is 1N. That is 111 people can have, or any of the wallets, okay, or a wallet can be used by all people. Okay. In the end, I imagine that as time passes, we will also learn as users. I mean, how to optimize our anonymity on the network, okay? It's just going to get harder, you know? No, this is going to be more complicated. That of being completely anonymous on the network, no, but to a certain extent.
without being anonymous, without being pseudonymous. That is, that I somehow, without being completely anonymous, can link to a site without people on the other side can do a complete tracking of me. What was happening until now in blockchains, in the traditional networks of LT, Veil, blockchain, and others? What happened when we linked an account?
Associated with funds, it is valid as if it were our login or entrance. We did not sign and access that website or whatever. So we were tying up an entire account with funds, okay or not. But hey, yes, because if we wanted to operate, I read that account, yes or no, I read that account. So he forced us to operate with that account we were signing. In this case, no redis, it makes it much more versatile. I can reach out to whoever I want, and I can tell them which account, with which account, or what accounts, because there can be more than one. At that moment, I want to operate. Imagine that I want to operate with a person, pay for the clicks with a Veil account, and share one NFT with another. I can do it, and all thanks to the transaction manifest. All right, guess what?
Are there a series of courseware questions here? I say, like I said, maybe we will see them at the end. But since they are related to the wallet, I think it's worth it, he says. First question, he says. Radix wallet redefines the security of eliminating passwords you mentioned, but how viable is this approach against sophisticated attacks such as phishing or biometric exploitation?
It's that when we're talking about attacks, the weakest link is the person himself. And so both phishing and biometric exploitation depend exclusively on us and not on technology. You know? That is, if I now take and give my iris to what the work coin is called, okay, that's it. I'm the one who made the idiot.
Pardon the expression?
Yes, you expose yourself, don't you?
Yeah, you expose yourself, that's it. And phishing? Well, we'll see how Radix implements Veil systems to ensure that it's the website you're connecting to. Whatever we say belongs to that application, you can. We will see that much later. You can also associate the different linked applications that is active systems have been implemented to ensure that when you're making a transaction worth, you can, let's say, somehow understand that no one is impersonating. Is the identity of that application worth it? From behind it comes out. How do you manage the balance between usability and complexity in business scenarios? Well, I think we haven't got there yet. Okay, I think we haven't arrived in the business senators. I imagine they will appear. In fact, I want to explore that way of creating wallets for companies. You know, where there are systems other than multi-signature systems, and we will see it later, systems with roles. So if something has good roots, we will see it later on a slide, is that it has a role system. It's worth a very, very, very powerful role pattern. Okay? Then I think right now the Radix wallet is not meant for that. Okay? But yes, and I imagine they won't do it, but they'll let us do it third parties. It is worth specialized wallets in the business world where we can have systems with roles. Imagine a role system where now it is super simple in Radix, where now a person can only handle an amount up to a transfer of a maximum amount of money, for example. Okay. And then if you're climbing roles, well, you can handle either more wallets or more money, etc., etc. Okay, all of that is possible with Radix, okay, and quite simply.
It's something very, very common in companies, not that is escalation levels and everything.
And you already have it and roles with scalability, okay?
Perfect, go.
What else does it say?
There is another question that says the integration of NFTs in Radix, the beginning of a standard for digital assets.
Is the integration of NFTs in Radix the beginning of a standard for digital assets? Well, Radix, you've seen, pretends to be a universal asset layer. So from there, it is that your way of conceiving assets, whether fungible or non-fungible, does not matter. It is valid as your own entities. Will we now see them as unique entities of their own? First-class value of primitives of first-class citizens within the network make that their proposal can become a standard perfectly of how assets should be managed, and they intend to be that global asset layer where everyone assembles and creates their applications upwards.
That's right. And finally, he says, could the elimination of passwords become a risk if authentication alternatives are not globally scalable?
Man, obviously, if something doesn't scale, it's because it's not being used. Okay, so if it's used, it's going to climb radishes. The idea is to scale it linearly. We'll see later when we talk about Surveillance, etc., etc. Okay, in other videos. So that's the idea. It is the idea of all networks to continue scaling. Each one has its own way of doing it technologically. Radix is proposing linear scalability. We will see how it works. Obviously, if it is used, it will scale. It will scale. If it is not used, it will not scale. So you can lose your, that is, that you delete the passwords. To see the passwords will be deleted as long as the person decides to do so. I believe that we are going to live in a system, in a multi-factor environment. Where you are going to not only have that is, you are not going to lose, or they are going to authenticate yourself with a single factor that can be your wallet, but possibly it is a biometric factor, as mentioned before, directly from your mobile phone. Surely it can also be another type of factor, such as a password, an email, one SMS, or mobile.
You can also use a hardware wallet for
a hardware wallet, a password like this, that is. If the world is moving more and more to a multi-factor environment when it comes to authentication, then the wallet is going to be one more way, one more factor to all that perfect multifactoriality.
That's it. That's all the questions.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, we have more or less seen the wallet. Okay, well, then why Radix? Okay. For a programmer, from a programmer's point of view, because radios are okay, so this is a very visual example that I think a programmer is quickly going to understand. I think we are all aware of how an IS swap works, not that it is nothing more than that, it is a swap. That is, I exchange one asset for another, asset one for another, and let's say the code in between, is it worth the algorithm in between that tells me what the exchange ratio is? We don't care about that, whatever it is, okay? But basically, you enter an asset and expect another asset to come out for that change, right? So this is how we imagine it works. And an iSwap is the example, because let's say it's the most famous swap on the Ethereum network. Okay, so I don't know this. Tell me.
No, I'm not saying yes.
That's it. So this is how we imagine an iSwap works. I mean, okay, I have my account with my private key. Okay, I sign a transaction. I send it to Al. In this case, Al to swap to the component. What the component does is deposit what I have sent him in a wallet. It is worth in a site. Now it takes from a warehouse that it has from a wallet that has, say, the tokens to be exchanged, and finally does not send them. I think that's basically how we all imagine it. I give you something, you give me something back, you leave it deposited somewhere. I take it from a place and deposit it in your wallet. Okay, down here it's like really eating, and in a very simplified way, very, very simplified. A swap works, I think it is in its version 2, it is valid on the Ethereum network, okay? I think that simply looking at the stripes and what there is nothing like it, okay? Why? Because what Ethereum does is basically, let's say in the Uniswap contract, he makes the change, okay? And what he does is put or synchronize or coordinate, let's say with the contracts where the accounting notes of the two tokens that want to be traded are, okay? And what he does is that he is exchanging the balance sheets. So it has to communicate with one, it has to communicate with the other, and after the two communications have been effective, finally what it does is that, let's say, finish the operation. Okay, so it's much more complex, and we see it clearly here. And this is a simplified scheme. Okay, how does Radix do it? Well, Radix, let's say that Alice has an account. What she does is she creates a transaction
where she takes a token and sends it to the contract. This token she trades. It deposits it in an EN in a vault, and from another vault extracts the tokens to be returned. It is worth that a fruit of the trade is redeposited into the account there. That is our imaginary mental theoretical scheme, where we believe how things work. We realize that Radix is much more similar then.
That's why.
Since
When comparing programming lines against Radix, there's a significant difference, isn't there?
is that why Radix is able to do this and not this? Well, basically, because of the architectural decisions he has made. Okay, now we'll see. Okay, but that's basically it. It has not given an asset-oriented approach where the assets are all unique. And let's say they are not unique. The word that is that they are our first class. They are our first class pieces within the network. That's, and now it's easy, okay? They're quasi-physical. It's easy, let's say. Move them from one place to another. Instead, on Ethereum, or on many of the networks, other LT networks, no, it's not like that. Okay, now let's see why. Okay, so first of all, for a programmer, he realizes that when it comes to implementing the code of this, I stick with this, basically because all programmers by default are very stupid. So we like to write little, and this is surely easier just by seeing it. So as I said, let's go into it, how to achieve. Why is Radix like this? It's worth two essential things. The first of all, oh, you're not leaving because we can get him up, huh? It seems to me, but hey, the first thing, because the asset-oriented approach is worth what makes Radix completely different, is the fact of how it treats assets. The assets, whether they are expendable or non-expendable normally, and we would have it here, we could see it. I don't know how to see it. Wait 1 second. Now I stopped sharing it. No, what did I say?
Wait.
Just a second.
Yeah, no problem.
That's it.
There it is.
Now it's seen again. It's not worth it. Normally, this is other networks where, as we have said before, the tokens are an accounting entry within a smart contract, okay? You know?
Andres can be seen there, but he is smaller, of course, like in
presentation mode. Otherwise, that's not worth it. But basically, I wanted to show this, not that normally in other networks, the assets or fungible or non-fungible tokens are accounting nodes, okay? It's an accounting entry within a smart contract. Instead, the approach that Radix has is different. For him, tokens are native. Okay, let's say they're pieces, individual pieces within the network that you can treat each one individually. So actually within an account contains physically. Let's put it this way. It physically contains every one of those assets that you own. Not just an accounting entry within a smart contract, but they are within your account, which is what we all assume. Basically, when we see our account, we think they're there, don't we? But not only can they be within an account, but the assets can be in addition to data in general, but the assets can also live within a component or a smart contract. The smart contracts in Radix are called components. So they can live within a component, which simplifies everything a lot. It's okay from what we saw here. We imagine that within the contract, it's okay. There are two vaults that contain assets. That's our imagination. And that's what happens in Radix. Within the contract, there are vaults that hold assets. And within our account, which is what one imagines, we have assets, okay? And they're not just accounting entries within a smart contract. This per se, what we said before, first of all,
simplifies programming a lot, thereby removing points of vulnerability within programming at least. The simpler the system and the less complicated, the less possibilities of vulnerabilities. One of the big failures we have within the network of networks that are not Radix. Another type of network is valid, such as Ethereum and others. The issue is that if I enter a smart contract, I am capable of violating it. Am I able to drain all your assets? Okay. In Radix's case, it is much more difficult because if I were able to get inside a component or inside the account, at most I would drain those in that account. So we're somehow mitigating the possibility of harm. Okay, there would be more reasons, okay, for security, but we'll talk about it later. Okay, in the end, if we realize the assets inside Radix move or are always contained in one place, they can't be loose in the network. So either it's in a vault or it's in another vault, it's worth a component. One account is worth it, and when they are transacted between one or the other, we use something in between, which is like a kind of bucket, a bucket to take it from one place to another. So we always have our assets controlled. Somehow we know where they are, and that's what, if you watch the previous video, we were talking about the finite state machine implemented between that of the Radixing jail and that I know, and that, and that makes the assets always predictable because we know where they are. We define the states where they can be, and we handle the transitions between states in every good way, which gives you impressive security because it's much more difficult. In some way, it prevents programmers from making mistakes when it comes to leaving loose ends, especially with the issue of assets. Okay, this is what we have to understand mainly. Okay, the main paradigm shift is that Radix, all your assets are there, all your programming, all your revenue and everything is asset oriented. That is, everything revolves around the assets. And it is normal in the end in a network, as I said before, in a DLT network. What is it that we do? What is it to create and move assets from one place to another if we do nothing else? Now, when these assets, let's say, are native and we can move them in a way, let's say, intuitive, easy, well, everything is much simpler. Okay, this simplifies everything a lot. And then the other aspect that makes what we've seen before possible. Okay, all this we've seen before but we'll talk about this one day. You have to make a video just for this or a couple of videos. It's within its architecture. It uses a modular architecture. What does this mean? Because they are very fast. It means that instead of having the entire application layer in a virtual machine like other networks do. I'm going to give an example. I think I have it here. Wait a second. Let's see. It's still seen, right? Yeah. Okay, this would be like basically what architecture would be like. Valid within the Ethereum network. Okay, let's say all of this, okay, is the machine, the application layer. Okay, so when I have to change something on the Ethereum network, okay, I make any kind of change. What I do is what I have to change. They are the entire application layer. It's a hard fork. What I'm doing normally works because, let's say, the abstract is just the smart contracts that I create deployed to people. Okay? Instead, in Radix has implemented a modular architecture system where the virtual one, that is the virtual machine, is only a layer, as if it were an onion within what the Radixing chain is. This is it. It's the chain Radixing. Okay, it's only one layer he's done, and this would be, let's say, the application layer. Actually, within Racing Chain, the application layer would be the abstract layer, which is where the smart contracts would be, whether native or those we create. But then he implemented a system where isolated, completely encapsulated, consecrated. We would also say consecrated. I think it's more of an Anglicism in Spanish. We would say encapsulate the kernel in such a way that
I don't need to do hard force to change any areas within the network because I have them here, you know, but it is the kernel, let's say, that implements all the logic. Then let's say it intervenes with the different assets. Is this modular aspect that is based on how operating systems work worth it? It's actually a lot like how operating systems work. The layered system is what makes the magic, so that the Jaime Radicing, I can do all this that we are seeing, and not only that. If not magic, understand magic as fantasy. What great that the Radix team has achieved is worth above all this layer, the system layer, that is the one that communicates and allows communication directly. Let's say what we are writing in contracts, it is valid with the Corel, and this in turn with the database. Okay, this system layer is what's gonna make it possible.
That we can have parallelism, for example, in Radix, that is being able to have more power, not making a transaction at one, that is not having a single thread of value, but having different value transactions executed at the same time. This is what the serving value or the fragmentation of the day-to-day of the layer is going to say in order to give them linear quality. Is all this worth it? Then
it's what it's going to allow, and then in turn allows us, as we see here, this whole system here, which is allowing me to be able to take in a moment and use what's called a loan system. This is what the programmers who are listening to me will know quickly, not the passing. This system here is the one that allows me to now, when I block a token here, okay, I can pass it from one owner to another or use a loan system, okay, from the code. And I'm doing all this thanks to this layer, this layered system, similar to the operating systems that Radix has implemented within Radishing, okay? Here's what makes it great. And finally, worth the crown jewel, which is where ours we're going to focus, which is scripted, okay?
Written, it has different things that make it special. Okay, first of all, it is easy because I say it is easy for various reasons, but among all the main one is because it is based on Rust. So if you already know Rust, or if you do a quick course on Rust online, you will quickly be able to create your own smart contracts. What's more, I'm going to tell you that even without knowing much about Rust, you can quickly understand what is happening because the syntax is very friendly.
It's okay in itself. The syntax in Rust is okay. If we also implement everything that the Radix team has done with script to add new types, new primitives, new functionalities, etc., then you make it very, very friendly when dealing with assets. Then we would say that Radix is safe because of what we had mentioned before. No, because of the way it manages assets as if they were. As with the whole issue of that, of encapsulating it inside buckets and bowls, it's worthwhile ordering your own from the programming console itself, preventing you from being able to let it loose, etc., etc. Makes it much simpler and much safer. Okay? Reusable, we haven't seen it before, we'll see it later. Script, okay, and Radix, the first thing you write, what you see here, okay, is what they call a blueprint. It is worth one plane, and we upload this plane to the network, and it is written in the ledger. And now every time we want to use this plan, okay, we must instantiate it. And once we have instantiated it, now this plan will have an address where we can access, okay, and where we can start using it. And that is what we decided before with the royalties.
I write a blueprint, okay? And now every time someone wants to use it because they think this code is very cool to implement in their own flow, it is valid within their DAPI, because then every time you use it, they are going to charge a royalty because what you do is instantiate it. It would be very similar to when we create classes and objects within other types of programming languages. Okay, you create a class where you create a series of definitions. And now, every time you want to say actually use it, what it does is you instantiate it and create an object out of that class. Okay? This is very, very similar. So once we have instantiated a plane, we call it a component. And the component is actually the intelligent concept that is living, that has its own address. And that's where the data is stored, where the tokens are stored, where the code that was previously written is executed. Okay, this is it.
To put it in a way, it's like to put another simile, not like what we had used before, not like when someone writes a library and now I directly care about MPN or another type of packager. Okay, I bring it from the package repository. I mean, I bring it, it installs on me, and it installs on my application, and now I can start running it inside me while GitHub is there for its life.
Well, nothing. It's simply the code. Now I need to bring it to be able to start executing it. Well, it's something similar. The scripts are composable. The plans that we make with writings are composable thanks to the transaction manifest, because the transaction manifest then allows you to take those plans. Okay. And as we have seen before using them, I use one, well, already instantiated as components. Those components, I use one, and the result of this I can pass to another, and the result I can pass to another, with which we can.
Let's say somehow, as it says here, compose is worth a single transaction with different plans. It is valid to achieve the business logic that we need. And what this urges is that we create simple plans, components, and instantiate simple components. Finally, that can execute small tasks. As if they were functions within an entire program, to now call each of the functions and have it do something and return me a result, and then one after another, in such a way that they finally form an entire process, and then what we had seen before. The theme of Veil Radix patterns allows us to create a role system. Is it worth a brutal role pattern based on insignia or badges that the English say, huh? Brutal when it comes to knowing who can do something. It is not in Radix, the philosophy is not who you are, but what you have in other networks. It's how you applied so you could do things and get permits. In many cases, what you're doing is presenting who you are. That is what wallet you are. Okay, in script, not in script, and in ready, it's not like that. Actually, who is sending me a transaction? What wallet is it? I don't care, don't ever ask for it. You don't know who he is. What you want to know is what he's introducing you to, or what that wallet has. So if you have something, a badge that allows you to do A or B, then that person has the ability to do it. Okay, well, this let's say empowers the general idea of what LT networks are, which is the power to transfer value.
You know, and sometimes the value is not just a token. Sometimes the value can be, a token with some type of value, but it can be the self to sell to you in a simple way. Imagine access to a platform. Imagine for a moment that I love you. I buy access to a platform, okay? And that platform for me to have access for a certain time. Imagine Netflix, okay? It gives me a kind of key. A badge is okay with a role system that I can have access to different movies.
Imagine that currently, both in the current LT model and in the Web 2 model, what you would have to share with me is your email and your password, yes or no, or entire, if we were in a Web 3 world, with which it would be a complete aberration. Is this worth this model that we want to create, this world where we can transfer value through the internet?
With the system of errors and badges, it takes on meaning, because now I can pass to you, give you a reference, and move from wallet to wallet. This badge, this touch is worth that allows you to identify yourself within the Netflix platform so you can access the content. Now it's okay. And as who says that? Well, another one is an example, huh? Another much more examples, okay? A little bit of what it would be like. We have 1 hour. A little bit of what the structure of a smart contract would be like. Here we're seeing it, okay?
I don't know if it looks good, if not, if Radix. What you're actually using is Rust's Rust modules. Okay, a module is nothing more than bringing together a logic in a single place, a logic that depends or is complete. And that's actually the definition of a package or a component. A whole logic that has to do with it is worth it.
not jointly for a specific purpose. And then within the NRAS modules, you can create a structure, and this structure. A structure is a complex type of data. We don't see it here. A structure where now within the structure, we can say create as if they were no fields or fields that in turn have a variable type with a valid type in this structure. This is from Rust. And to this structure, we can create an implementation where we can define functions and methods that are nothing more than logic. It is valid inside for this specific structure that we have created here. Okay, so this of a module and a structure of an implementation. This is Rust. This is Rust. This is not Radix, okay? But Radix uses this fantastic programming system to create its environment. So here in the structure, what we save is the permanent state of the smart contract of the Veil component. And if you realize here, we are saving in this useful tokens bound, we are saving a bound type, Veil, which means that it is a container. We are keeping a container of tokens, either fungible or non-fungible, okay? And here, for example, this is the same, and in this, for example, it is a decimal type data. What we would be saving would be decimal data, a number with a decimal, or it can be, but a decimal character number. And then if you realize, then the implementation is created, okay? Where basically what we are telling it is a function that is going to serve as an instantiator is okay to be able to give life to this component where we can pass parameters to it, okay? And it in turn can return parameters to us. In this case, he's going to give us back an address for that package. To then be able to instantiate it is worth an instantiation address of that package. And now from here, we can create within the instance, we can create whatever and somehow activate or initialize the variables of our structure, okay? And then finally, the methods always refer to the structure, okay? That's why it puts self, always refers to the structure with which at any time. We can, for example, self, collected XRD, that is, we can always access the data we have in the structure. And if you look here, it's as easy as this bucket that happened to me here. Here it is happening to me in this method. It is passing me a bucket. This saying it is passing me a container with some type of non-expendable, and I can immediately tell it point amount, and it tells me how many of what is inside there do you know, or can I tell him? In this case, is the collector worth this permanent container that in theory is going to collect XR? Put it in. What are we going to put in a bucket? What bucket is the payment already? We have already transferred with this line. We have transferred here to the structure. Is it worth what this person was happening to me here, and what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to return this container here. From this container here, I am going to take purchase from Mount Veil. In this case, because here it has made a division, okay? And the information that this division has given is okay. Well, that is what I am going to take from here to finally return it here. Look, this is also from Rust. Is it worth returning a bucket? In this case, if you realize here, we are not finished with, because this is as if here we put in front in other programming languages that can also be done in Rust, return. Return this, and this itself is a bucket, and this is the ideal that would return your wallet. If you realize quickly here you see that it is simple, it is not very difficult, okay? Here, for example, we have skipped this. This here, what we are creating is a resource. It is worth the resources here. You are creating it inside the component, but we can create it outside. From a transaction, we can create a resource. A resource is and can be a consumable or non-consumable. In this case, it is creating a consumable voucher where it is telling you, it is giving you some metadata, and it is giving you a supply. This to this variable here, what it's giving back is a bucket. Then we see it here. Notice with bucket is returning a bucket with the 1,000 useful tokens that we have created. And here, when we have initialized the variables of the structure, what we have said is that we put the ones we have created here, we put it in, we pass it here, it goes to this variable.
to the structure, so that then here, when someone comes and pays us, we can do the return of the touch. It's very easy, very simple if you realize. If you have been familiar with building smart contracts on other platforms, you will have seen it right away.
That we have native containers is worth saving different types of digital assets or assets, which is a Podemos. It is a very easy, very simple, very powerful system of creating assets within contracts if necessary and moving well. That yes, that moving the assets between containers or between containers is really simple. Okay? And put handling, take, etc., amount, etc., etc. And there are many more. It's very, very, very simple. Okay, I think, William, this is a very sketchy first approximation, right? To what Radix is about, why learn writing, why be more interested in this network, okay, etc., etc. Stop. I think that in future videos I can continue explaining little things about how you saw it.
Of course, this one is very interesting. Well, yes, I am. I'm still very rusty in programming topics, but I can imagine how this looks structured, like something like Visual Basic or some language of that type, not this one. But hey, I will know that I put this, mainly this one, and that's why I proposed it to you. I didn't tell you, hey, and if we do this one, well, this series of videos stops. Try to take it. I say maybe there won't be a large number of people who are really interested in this, but I believe that many can change. They can even change their lives, not with something like this. And well, that was better the purpose of the channel from the beginning, trying to show you all my mistakes, all my successes in this journey. And because someone can serve you, and with one person, two people benefit, well, that's it. It's a pretty noble thing. I know you can do, isn't it? So, and mainly, well, I am the main interested in learning this writing.
Very well. This here website case is still written something wrong, right?
If this question says, will transaction compatibility be the glue that ultimately binds fragmented blockchain ecosystems?
Oh, it's that fragmented blockchain, oysters. Look, you know, Vitalik ruled it out, you know, on the roadmap. I think that until the beginning of 23, there were fragmentation. Sharding is worth N for Ethereum. And finally, it was discarded and left for rollups. That is second layer rollups as a scalability system.
I don't know. I know there are more and more. I know that in addition, for example, Ethereum and other networks are already investigating whether intention systems, such as the transaction manifest, obviously is they have realized that it is the path. No, there is no going back. It is valid for, not because Radix says it there, it is because there are already other networks that are also implementing the systems. I think it is Swing, who has also done something about it, and Solana, I think, is also doing something about it. It is not going to be easy because of what we explained before. And I think we will have to make a complete video about the LAEL. The architecture is not easy. Why? Because Radix has actually made certain compromised architectural decisions. I mean, committing, for example, to assets as first level assets, native to security, etc. And it's not that other networks have technical debt. It's when, for example, you program something and you say, well, I'll leave this like that and then I'll fix it, right? It's not that they have a hard technique, but that they have made decisions that are going to cost them a certain debt in the sense that it will be difficult later to change or compensate. So you know how Radix, let's say, has already made the decisions focused on this matter in this specific way, because then implementing all this is not going to be very simple. For example, Radix were recently asked to miss it to continue recording in LA. In the Veil iOS App Store, he asked you that you had to be able to delete accounts within the network. Quickly Radio. A system was implemented to be able to make a draft of accounts, something that others did not have as a priority. But as I asked them to, they have certain architectural commitments that have allowed them to make, that is, to be able to then do these types of things in a simple way.
Well, quickly, because they knew the problem that it was that their store, where the version of the application continued to be renewed. And well, since they could continue, tell another network that they have to create a simple account deletion system, you know? So complicated, very complicated. That's why, but that's why I'm telling you, not that in the end when someone asks, but why has Radix been doing this for 10 years? Well, because they have gone around a lot until they find, let's say, an architecture that everyone felt comfortable with and believed they could achieve the results they expected. You know what else it says?
Talking about architecture is like talking about foundations, right? Asking for this type of changes to networks such as Ethereum, such as Solana, would practically be to see, raise the house to change the movements, and then lower the house, which is why it is very complicated.
That's that. And then that's why an entire video is required for the topic of architecture. There are a couple of super interesting posts out there that they have made themselves that help you understand why they have made those decisions, those commitments. Okay, there's one that has to do with abstraction versus consecration, no, or encapsulation. Okay, Vitalik has talked a lot about that topic. He is very interested. Look, in fact, by putting in some information about that is interesting, you know, it takes it out in abstraction inside Ethereum. No, it takes it out in abstraction. No, that is smart contracts that contain value. No, in the end, what we were seeing here, no. Well, there is a model that 4337, I think, what is the one they have? I don't remember the 4337. I think it's the RC, no one RC, written by Botanic and people from the Ethereum Foundation. You know, they said this is necessary. It is necessary to be able to take it to the general public, because in reality, it is like somehow allowing you to have an account without having realized that you have an account. That is being able to use the network without knowing that you are using the network, okay? And they did that about 2 years ago. That is worth a standard 1 RC. That is abstraction. No, I do not incorporate into the kernel. The idea of a Kyer abstraction is worth, but I abstract it, okay? As everything about Ethereum is abstracted, they are ERCs, they are standards that propose, but that are in smart contracts. Okay, what's the matter that no one's used it? Why doesn't anyone use it? Because it is difficult to implement. Okay, and because then different bifurcations have appeared, ways of seeing it and understanding it, and then they didn't agree. You know that all this analysis needs everyone to do it the same way. If someone leaves the pattern now, and if they start from 2 or 3, the story is over. In fact, it has not worked. What happened? That was with Venkum. I think what happened now at the beginning of January Pecta with the 7702, it seems to me that it is the IP702. How is it going to incorporate Ethereum? What is it? Well, Vitalis has realized that. He said, well, we'll have to enshrine, encapsulate inside the kernel. If applicable, within the Ethereum virtual machine, we will have some of the most complicated features of the account abstraction standard. Okay, and we pass it, they're encapsulating it. It's no longer something abstract, but they're encapsulating it now inside the network so that it's above all understandable by the rest of the applications, so that they're all the same, okay? Well, this is what Radix does in a way, in a natural way. Okay, abstract what you have to abstract and encapsulate what you have to absolve. Of course, the paradigm that Vitalik proposes is that when you encapsulate too many things within the kernel, you complicate the system, and he wanted a clean Ethereum system. Simple, okay. And he doesn't like that by default in his mind, but it is necessary in some cases like the Alba Radix. Because of what I have explained to you before, we will raise another. But you obviously realize this isn't working. That's why it doesn't make me laugh when people say, I have done the fundamentals of the network. Well, you've stayed above the fundamentals of a network, you know? That is, the top part is low, and you will see that there is underneath. The fundamental thing is that people don't know many times or comment on anything, but that's why I encourage everyone. Look, I encourage everyone to read the posts and posts that Vitalik makes in his NN.
Correct.
If he has a website where he makes his posts because nothing else, but he understands the concepts in depth, and many times he discusses these things, and by reading it, he learns to appreciate other networks, appreciate Ethereum also, because it is worth despising it, and learn to see that it is a much more complex system than we imagine in many cases.
Perfect.
What else does this say about superheroes? It says, how far can written badges go to turn roles and permissions into strategic power plays? Well, whatever you want the DAOs, I know of people who are freaking out about what can be done in DAOs with Radix. It's worth precisely because of the badge and error systems.
Excellent, he says. For Consort says he was quite interested in this one.
All right, I'm glad.
Well then.
We will continue to abound in it.
John mentioned Andres simplifies what many complicate, and as the Grandmaster, I completely agree. Additionally, Ernesto expressed his gratitude for making this possible. I believe I will start learning the intricacies. I have already joined this group.
Just had a phone conversation with Ernesto. Well, everyone aware that we are continuing with Guillermo will appreciate the value of creating such videos. Okay, we're down to 1,000 things. I think that in the next Guillermo, we will address how that is. Once we have some basic notions, we will address where we can find the information, the radixdelti.com page. Okay, there they will come built, and they will see that all the information is there, but that there is a course called Scrypto 101 to be able to start a course. They have the Telegram channel for developers. They have the channel for developers. That is, there are a multitude of little things, but I think that if we continue here making videos of this, it's worth the next day. Seeing a little more about what are the tools that we need, how to install in this program environment, on the computer programming environment, that is basically install, Rust, etc. Okay, and let's see how to help all these people who want to learn how to use Radix and scripts so they can do their pinitos. In any case, I believe that so much in me, well, it goes without saying, not Guillermo. What did I have? If you contact us through Telegram, LinkedIn, any social network that goes to the Hispanic channel, okay, Radix, the Hispanic channel, and very important Radix, you will find people with a lot of experience, people who are already doing very interesting things, who have been in Radix for many years, who will be able to solve any of your questions. We are there too, okay? And I'm sure we will solve your problems right away.
Yes, here I am going to put it in the Eastern chat section, and I am going to try to also put it in the description of the video.
Yes, because that's where you find them all. In this Cortez, we have a channel there within the Radix channel. There is a Spanish channel, or I don't know how it says little there. They will find us little on the Telegram. They're really going to find us more.
That's right. Well, great. Thank you very much, Andres.
Guillermo?
Because it was quite good. And well, yes, we are going to be doing this. Well, maybe we get together like this once a week, if possible on Mondays, or if not, this gets complicated. Well, we see some other day more or less at this same time. Surely that's when the next ones will be able to be made. But well, if there are several videos, this is like everything, not like everything in life. You have to dedicate time to it. You have to sting you, we have to make a mistake this without losing money or anything, but to be making a mistake with practice, because practice in the end makes the teacher. So thank you very much, Andres.
Come to you, Guillermo. Greetings.
Greetings to everyone. See you next time. Goodbye until we meet again.